To be successful in life, one of the skills that you must master is the skill of survival. Hello again, everybody. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And today, I'd like you to join Eli and me as I go over something that's kind of happening in Eli's life right now. It's happened to me. It happens to everybody. Is you face yourself with situations that cause you to survive a certain time frame to progress and continuously move forward. All right. Now, sometimes a victory is measured by your ability to merely survive and advance. Now, sometimes things are black and white, and sometimes there's a gray area. Now, when you master the skill of survival, you often find yourself dwelling completely surrounded by gray matter. Situations change, times change. Let me give you a couple of examples. Eli, when I was a young buck, maybe a few years older than you were, I used to gather my boys. We would go out, we'd get in the car, we'd hop over, we'd play basketball, we'd go to a different town and we'd say, okay, we're going to go pillage this town. Or we'd go out and we'd go to a dance in a different town and say, okay, we're going to make friends with a lot of new girls in this area, and we were going to pillage, the social clubs where we were going to. Well, now that I'm a little bit older, the word pillage has a completely different meaning to me, okay, if you get my idea. When you're I want to give you a quote from a gentleman named Daniel H. Pink that sort of fits in with the scenario you're going through, a scenario that people go through at work very frequently. Let me read it to you. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, while complying can be an effective strategy for physical survival, it's a lousy one for personal fulfillment. Living a satisfying life requires more than simply meeting the demands of those that are in control. Yet in our offices and in our classrooms, we have way too much compliance and way too little engagement. The former, that gets you through the day, but only the latter will get you through the night. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that there are times in life when you will find yourself, whether it's in school, whether it's in the workplace, and I'm going to tell you about what happened to me in the workplace. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. All right, these are just things that you have to recognize. In order to advance and survive, in other words, to go from point A to point B to point C, so on, you have to do what the authority in charge is telling you, even if you strongly disagree with it, you think it's unfair, it's not what you signed up for. These are situations that just happen all the time. Now, let me give you an example from work, all right? I was in the workplace, and I had done some writing and talking, and as a member of the union, I had said this, and I had said that, and so on and so forth. I strongly disagreed with my mostly younger compatriots in the union who made what I still feel is kind of a bad mistake. And I wrote a letter to everybody, and of course the management, and I wasn't trying to hide anything. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed or anything like that, but management looked at the letter, and obviously they were opposed to what it was I was saying. And so what did they do? They found all these little ticky-tack little things that they could do to me to try and get me upset, to try and get me to, comply with everything and so on. So there's kind of two ways that I can go, and you're kind of ran into that in your school most recently, where you can either comply with what the authorities tell you and kind of take your medicine and just go ahead, move forward, or you can rebel against it, and then you just find yourself either completely out or you find yourself in more trouble. So here's what I did. All right, I took a look at what the restrictions knew. You can't do this, you can't carry your phone, you can't, we don't want you doing that. All right, all these little things that they were doing. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm the one that controls my attitude. I'm not going to let them control my attitude. And I went back to, now I'm not a particularly super religious person, but I do have some knowledge of the Bible. And one of the things that's great about the Bible is there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible. One of the things that's written in the Bible is to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to give to God what is God's. Now, how does that apply to you? All right, well, I'm at the workplace. They're not necessarily, they weren't necessarily in my big plans for what I wanted to do. It was a matter of survival. It was a place to go. It was a place to work. It was a place to earn an income. Kind of like going to school, all right? You want to go to school. You want to graduate. You want to move on to the next part of your life. I mean, these are things that, we have in common in this particular arena here, all right? So you got to say to yourself, I've done a lot of work. Do I want to give up all of the progress that I've made doing this and doing this and doing this, and the benefits that I am able to enjoy because I work there? Or the same way with you in school. You've worked very hard in school. You've done very, very well in your advanced placement classes, which I'm very proud of. You've made some tremendously good strides as far as being a basketball player is concerned, which is not something that is a requirement as far as you and I are concerned, but I'm needless to say, being a basketball guy, I'm very proud of you for that. And I love hearing your stories and so on, and you're on the team and you're playing and you're doing well. Is that something you've worked hard for? Is that something that you want to give up because of your pride? You got to stop and you got to think about it, right? Because initially we all have the same knee-jerk reaction. I'm not putting up with that. That's not fair. I'm not putting up with that. Like I said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, right? That's the way they want to be in school. That's the way they want to be at work. All right, I'll comply. I'll give in. This will pass. All right? One of my mentors said it to me in a different way. This is what he said. He said, Eli's dad, don't ever let pride get in the way of your pocketbook. Now, think about that for a second. I mean, you go through different aspects of life. You take different jobs when you're on your way up. You have a vision of what it is you ultimately want to do. And sometimes the people that are in charge, the ones that are in control, get their jollies by exerting their power over you. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Don't let pride get in the way of your pocketbook. All right? Because victory sometimes means mere survival in your given circumstances. But you still got to keep your eye on the ball for your long-term objectives, but realize that sometimes you got to swallow your pride to survive the short-term scenario, and that enables you to achieve your long-term goal. So it's one of the steps that take you from A to B to C to D. It may not be one of the most active steps, and one of the things that people frequently confuse is they go, boy, I'm not being very courageous by not standing up. Let's use the word tolerant instead of not being courageous. All right? You need to, sometimes you need to go along with something even if you don't feel that it's the right thing, or it's unfair, or whatever, in order to survive. And remember always, there were people in much worse scenarios than you are as far as surviving. Let me give you an example of something that happened to me when I was in college. I was on the basketball team. I was a sophomore in college. I was expecting to start my sophomore year on the basketball team. They brought in a new freshman class. They had some guys that were pretty good. I was somewhat instrumental in getting rid of the old coach, who was just not a good coach, and we brought in a new coach and somebody that we knew, somebody that was he was young, he just graduated, but he was somebody that we knew would do the right stuff, that had the right mindset. Now, I wasn't playing, I was sitting on the bench, and I'm angry that, like, I'm not seeing any time. I'm sitting on the bench, all right? And that's a frustrating thing. I mean, when you play basketball for a college, that's a major commitment, that's major time. And you know, when you have an away game, like this particular game that I'm going to tell you about, was a 4-hour bus ride away from where we were. So if I'm going to travel 4 hours there, I'm going to travel, stay for the game, travel 4 hours back, that's a pretty large commitment of your day. All right, but I'm willing to do that. I mean, it's a passion. That's what I wanted to do. I'm, you know, the basketball player. That's, you know, I became a coach. So I mean, obviously, it's a passion of mine. So anyway, we're playing in the game, and we're getting kind of our butts handed to us. So finally, the second half, I get into the game, and I make a couple of nice plays. All right, I make a nice move. I make a nice defensive play, and so on. So I feel like I made some progress. I was in there for, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes of game time, which in a 40-minute game is not a whole heck of a lot. But I did see some time. Anyway, we had gotten beaten very badly. And so there was, you know, when you lose a game, there's a lot of anger that you feel initially after the game. And one of the other guys on the team, somebody that was a starter, he got pulled from the game. And he was ripped. He was just ticked off to the end that he got pulled from the game. We get into the locker room at the end of the game, and he does something incredibly stupid. He takes like a shoe or something and throws it at like a water cooler, one of those glass water coolers they had in there for us, and he broke it. Water all over the place, glass all over the place. All right, you can't do stuff like that. You can't let your anger, you know, have you react, have a knee-jerk reaction with something like that. And he was just fit to be tied. So anyway, the coach that saw him, the assistant coach that saw him, who was a very highly respected assistant coach, was the leading scorer at that college in the history of the school, so he's very respected. You know, is like all up in arms, like, you know, you can't do that, so on and so forth. And then he's walking down, you know, in the locker room, and I'm getting dressed. And he says, Eli's dad, hey, you had some time? You did a nice job out there. So what did I say? I said, yeah, in a couple of minutes they let me play. That's all I said. When we get back 4 hours later to school, back to college, the coach pulls me aside. He's already pulled the other guy aside, told him he's suspended. He pulled for, you know, he's suspended from the team. He pulls me aside and says, I'm suspending you for 2 games for what you said to Coach Corriveau. It's like, what did I say? I didn't say anything. All I said was, yeah, for the little time I got in there. So anyway, the result of that is the school newspaper, this is the only time that I made it into the school newspaper in college. The school newspaper puts Barry, Eli's dad, suspended. And then there's like an article there. And so of course the reporter comes up to me and he says, you want to tell me about what happened? I want to hear your side of what happened. I know you got suspended. Well, I said, you know what? I have no comment. What happens with the team stays with the team. And that's it. There was more at stake than my pride. What was at stake was, you know, the coach even said to me afterwards, you know, I kind of overstepped. I heard what you said, and I responded, and I was annoyed from what the other guy had done. But I kind of have to stick with your suspension. And I said, all right, I'll support you. I mean, I was one of the people instrumental in getting him hired there. So you sometimes have to look at the long term. So I took my medicine. I waited the 2 games, then I'm back on the team, and we're playing. And I'm glad I did, because then I finish off, you know, my basketball career there. I wasn't going to switch colleges. This other guy transferred to another college, all right? I didn't do that. I wanted to stay where I was. And you just take your medicine. Okay, you don't let pride get in the way of your pocketbook. Now one of the other things that happens is sometimes you find yourself in a situation when, once again, to survive, you kind of look at the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent, who it is you're surviving against, right? Now, in a basketball game, that might mean, or in a football game, you see it all the time, but I'll talk to you about basketball. We had a team of players, when I was coaching, that were good athletes, but not particularly good basketball players. And we would play some schools where they had some really, really good basketball players. So to take advantage of our strengths versus their weaknesses to survive and become victorious at the end, we would, every time we got a rebound, we would run, fast break. Every time the other team had the ball, we would press. We're hurrying up, hurrying up, hurrying up. And of course, in the practices that we had, knowing our situation, the preparation was, let's make sure that we're in very, very, very good shape. So that when the other team is playing and it's at the end of the game, they're huffing and puffing. And one of the things that Vince Lombardi, coach of the Green Bay Packers, said was, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And that's especially true, he said it for football reasons, but it's true in basketball also. So what we had to do was we had to survive, essentially, the first half, the first 3 quarters of the game, and just keep it somewhere manageable. And as long as we kept it manageable, we were able to have a shot at the end of the game. And what happened at the end of the game, because we were in superior shape and we kept running and running and forcing them to run and forcing them to hurry up, they were huffing and puffing. And what happens is we would steal the ball, we would have advantages, we would get uncontested layups, right? So it's just a matter of sometimes doing what you have to do, taking advantage of your opponent's weaknesses and utilizing your strengths. So the key things, Eli, that I want you to remember from this little session as far as survival is concerned are twofold. Number one, sometimes you've got to just take your medicine. I'm not saying to give up your beliefs. I'm not saying to compromise your principles. What I am saying is give yourself a little more gray area. Don't make everything so black and white, as long as it's not something that's not against the laws of nature, or whatever. I mean, there are some things that you just, hey, it's black and white, this is wrong, forget about it, all right? But if there's a gray area there and you're not part of the people in control, sometimes you have to give in. You have to adopt the right mindset, the mindset of render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But at the same time, keep in your mind your long-term goals and keep your focus on that, and understand that by performing and cooperating, what you're doing is you're helping yourself to advance, not as fast as you would like, but you're helping yourself to survive and advance. And the other point that I want you to take with you is always make sure that you identify your strengths and your opponent's weaknesses, and make sure that you use them to your advantage, because games are 4 quarters. There's a lot of time in a game, and what happens is people, like I said to you before, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And that's true in life. Not if you can outlast your opponent because you're stronger and you recognize their weaknesses, then you're going to be able to survive as well. Now, I have a few thoughts for the day that I want to share with you that kind of hit home on these points, so pay attention to these. This one is from Leon Magnuson. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. This one is from Robertson Davies. Extraordinary people survive under the most terrible circumstances, and they become more extraordinary because of it. This one is from a book called The Sorcerer's Apprentice by someone named Tahir Shah. And the quote is, "Respect was one thing, survival was another. It was important that I kept my priorities in the right order." And finally, Eli, this bit of advice. And this is from Mallory McCartney, the writer of Queen to Ashes. And her quote very simply is, "Walk, breathe, survive." And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.